started. My name is Pam, my smart cousin. And what I'm going to be doing is taking the next hour or so to do two things. One is to allow you all to pepper me with questions on my real estate investment journey. And two is for me to talk to you about what I've done, how I've done it, and hopefully get you as excited about doing this kind of work as I am. So with that, what I'm going to do is share screen. And certainly you all can feel free to ask questions as we go. Probably the most effective way of doing that is just by raising a hand. But certainly if you want to enter it in chat, we'll do our best to monitor that as well. So as you can see, the title of this is A House for the Price of a Car, which I know is a rather unusual way to think about the home buying journey. And it's named as such because those were the words out of my mouth when my husband, at the time we were dating, but back in 2014, when he was looking for a house to buy in the Wilmington, Delaware area, he was renting. And back then, the way we looked was to go from cheapest to highest. So you know how usually the real estate agent is going to take out his telescope or the mortgage broker and say, okay, what do you qualify for? Oh, is it 300,000? Great. Let's look for houses that cost 300,000 and sometimes even more than that. Well, instead of that, we turned the telescope the other way around to look and see if you start from cheapest, what comes into view. And lo and behold, what we saw were houses in the $20,000 and $30,000 neighborhood. Of course, this was on the heels of the Great Recession, but nonetheless, even still today, there are hundreds of houses in that same price range. Obviously, not all across the U.S., but in an awful lot of it. And when he found his house, $27,500 in a good solid neighborhood in a working class block, I said, I cannot believe that this house costs the price of a car. And once I saw that, as you can well imagine, I could not unsee it. And that became my new friend and way of looking for real estate. So that's what led me into this journey. So as we will move along here. Again, my name is Pam Hill, and my company is MySmartCousin. So I have a family reunion on my mom's side that I go to. We just had our 40th year anniversary. And so I've always been that cousin at family reunions who asks the family, ask cousins about personal finance, how things are going. If they told me that they were going to be investing in the stock market or putting the first tentative toe into looking for a home to buy versus renting, I'd be that cousin that would follow up that next year or sometime during the year and say, hey, how's it going? How can I help you? And so whenever they saw me walking towards them, they'd be like, hey, here come my smart cousin. Come on over here and talk with me. And so began My Smart Cousin. So you can reach out to me through email, info@mysmartcousin.com, or certainly on all the social media. And there it's just at My Smart Cousin. So I am a former CEO and CFO at a Fortune 500 company. So I used to work in the electric utility industry. So back in 2014, when my home buying journey began, that's where I was. And I was very comfortable in a very high pressure job, a number of high pressure jobs, but they were gratifying. I really enjoyed the work. And that gave me the foundation in order to look at potential home investments as many projects, almost as many electric utility projects. But I mentioned the Fortune 500 experience with electric utilities just because I'm someone who comes from the corporate side, as some of you might. And so really do start all of my analysis in that very fundamental, rigorous way. On the real estate investment side, My strategy is buy, hold, rent. So you can imagine when you are buying a house for the price of a car, buy, hold, flip doesn't really work in the short term. It can in this crazy COVID market. Certainly, there are opportunities to flip, but usually you're best served by just letting that house sit for a little while, let the market mature a little bit, and then flip it. And the reason why is if you buy a house, let's say for, I don't know, $35,000, and so now you've put another 20 into it, so that's a $55,000 house. It's highly unlikely that in, let's say, 3 years' time, that 55,000 is now going to be 355,000, for instance. However, if you wait probably about 10 years or so, you are going to see that level of return. And in the meanwhile, you'll see rents that are these days probably at least $1,500 for a 3-bedroom home. So that's why, to my mind, the buy, hold, rent makes a lot of sense when you're looking at the buy for the price of a car price range. And then as far as what have I done? So far in that buy for the price of a car, which for me has meant cheapest house I bought, $2,500 in southern New Jersey. Most expensive house still in that price for a car range, $35,000. So those houses comprise 25 houses, equaling 31 units. And then I just recently bought a house that is not of the house for the price of a car mold, but still a very good priced house. It's a rooming house. And so that's my first foray into small, I guess I'd say small commercial residential because it's a 6-unit property. In addition to being on the buy, hold, rent side, I also am a blogger. So I've got a lot of free information that you can find when you follow me, or certainly just through Facebook and through MySmartCousin. And as you can see, I'm a real estate investment coach. So I'm someone who has walked the journey, continue to, not someone who's done this one time and says, hey, I know how to do it. Come work with me. But someone who's done it a lot and has seen both how to do it and how not to do it. So what is it that we do? When I work with you, what I do is I take you from plan, which is usually the most important part. Folks usually have like a rough idea of what they're interested in doing, but no one has yet drilled down into the specifics. So we go from plan to roadmap to actual execution, so that if you've been sitting on the sidelines for a good long while, you are able to make your way into real estate investment owner. And as part of that, usually this thought about money mindset is a term of art I've heard of late. Usually that's not always part of it, but I find that you really have to drill down, not just into your money mindset, but I'd say your mindset generally, kind of that voice in the head that usually stops you from doing things or causes you to over ruminate about doing things. We dig into that as well, because while that can be a helpful voice, it's not particularly helpful if it has you entrenched where you've been over the past several years. Second thing we do is small business coaching. So for folks who are looking to start a small business, that is an area that we're also well familiar with. I've done a lot of entrepreneurial ventures myself outside of real estate. So that's an area that super comfortable in. Who we help. So certainly if you're looking to be a buy, hold, rent, like you saw on the other slide, you've found the right person. You heard me say that I don't do buy, hold, flip when I am operating in that house for the price of a car, but I certainly have advised a lot of folks on how to do buy, hold, flip. So if that's your cup of tea, you're in the right place. If you're instead not even looking to do any such thing of real estate investment, instead you want to start with your own home sweet home. That's where you want to be. I applaud that, and I think that that makes a lot of sense. So if you are an aspiring single family homeowner or an aspiring multifamily homeowner, so there that means someone who's going to have a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. Those all can be financed just like a single family with FHA or Veterans Administration if you served in the military or some other government program. So I can certainly help you with that. And the good news is that house for the price of a car is possible even if you're going to live in the home yourself. So you heard me mention the Wilmington house that my husband bought at $27,000, and even the house we're in right now that we bought, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago now, and it's in a solid neighborhood in a suburb of Philly. It is a $35,000 buy. And then last category of folks we help are people who are starting up their entrepreneurial journey, particularly if you're looking in the land of certifications. There are a whole fistful of certifications that federal government offers that allows you to then be able to sell based on whatever that category is. So you heard me mention the Veterans Administration, their particular program that they have for buying a house, and it's a loan program they have. Likewise, that's a certification that's offered. Same thing with women. So women-owned businesses is a particular certification, and then minority and disadvantaged business enterprises, yet another one. So let's dive now into the nuts and bolts of this. What is a house for the price of a car? So you've already heard me kind of elbow into it a little bit when I told you how I defined it. A house that was as cheap as $2,500, and as you can imagine, those are like one-time only type deals. I do not expect to find another one like that. And that one I got on auction.com. And houses that are more than that, but up to a limit. I don't think 35,000 is what you should just depend on. And so now I've stretched that up as inflation has stretched things up. I've had to stretch up what that looks like. And so I say anything that's $60,000 or under. That is a house for the price of a car. That's a very inexpensive buy, either one that you'll live in, or if it's going to be a rental property. What isn't a house for the price of a car? The average price. Do you know that this is the average price of a house in these United States? $428,000. Now, of course, that's taking in expensive California, expensive Hawaii, Alaska. So they're skewing this average way high. But nonetheless, there's an awful lot of houses not in those locations that still are routinely in the $300,000 and the low $400,000 neighborhood. So this is where we want to steer away from, and especially if it's going to be a rental property. Here's a little bit of insight again into my thinking on this house for the price of a car. If you look at buying a house that's, I don't know, let's say a $300,000 house, right? It's going to be in probably your typical family neighborhood, you know, cat, dog, 3 kids, mom, dad, what have you. That house, if you were to rent it to a family these days, I'd say it could be as much as a $5,000 a month rent check that you'll get, but it's probably more like $4,000. Okay, so you're getting $4,000 a month off of a $300,000 investment. If you instead bought a house all in, let's say that's $80,000 after the fix up and everything, that house is going to get you probably closer to $1,700, $1,800 a month. So you can easily see how you would need to get if you got 4 of those houses, so paid the same 320, you would double your investment return. So that's the reason for looking at house for the price of a car, because the return on that house is so much higher than it is on your regular house. What else is a feature of a house for the price of a car? So this kid here, this many, that's where you want to be. You're paying off the house in that many years, 10 years or less. If you buy a house for $80,000 all in, you can do that very easily. What's not a house for the price of a car? This many, a whole generation, 30 long, hard years. So that's yet another reason to be looking at the low end of the market. Also, what else is a house for the price of a car? Not this, not your wrecking ball. No, sir. Instead, more like this, a house that's got, these are basic things, but these are important things. Windows, a roof, ceiling, floor, subfloor, but also look more closely. There is going to need to be some cosmetic and sometimes more than cosmetic work. In other words, HVAC work, replacing the furnace, repairing holes in the roof. So let's now dig into some of the details. I'm going to go to this example here, and we're going to see. If you take a look here at Century 21, so you can see this is just their most recent listing of what they've got for sale, right? And so I put in a couple of filters. Under $75,000, at least 2 beds instead of at least 2 bedrooms. Let's say, I don't know, probably 3 bedrooms is a good average. And this is showing us what is available in this part of the US. This is Pennsylvania. First of all, the range, the huge amount of houses that are available. That's the very first thing to notice. Second of all, you know how folks say, oh, you can't find any good deals these days, either because all the deal days are behind us, i.e. the Great Recession is gone and we're in the land of high inflation. You just proved them wrong, haven't you? This is Century 21. This could just as well be Zillow, Realtor.com, what have you. And this is only one state. So this is showing you that there's still plenty of deals out there. So that's the very first thing I want you to take away. Second thing to take away is that oftentimes folks will say, well, gee, you need to have some sort of connection. You need to have a wholesaler as a connection. You need to have a banker as a connection. You need to look for, be one of these cash buyer folks who put up bandit signs and reach out proactively to people who are looking to sell. Well, as you can see, this here is transparent, easily available on the multiple listing service, the MLS service. And then the third thing is that folks will say, well, you just can't find anything on Zillow. That's not where the deals are. Only the duds are there. Well, this shows that that's not true either, because once again, you're seeing all these properties listed. Now, with that said, of course, not every one of these things is going to be a golden goose, but surely there must be some amidst all of this. So that's really the big takeaway that I want you to have in looking at this. But now, outside of that big takeaway, let's look at even more detail to see what we can find. All right, we're going to look at this one right here, right? Why not? It's first, $34,000, 3 beds, 1 bath, 18 pictures. I like the sound of that because that tells me there's something to look at. It shouldn't be too terrible if they're showing all these photos, but sometimes it is. Let's just see what we got. Keep going. Okay. This isn't all bad. What do I see? First of all, this looks like a kitchen. I can see that this kitchen could use some work, no doubt about it. But it is not in desperately poor shape, not compared to the outside of the house. I was very afraid when I first took a look at it, but obviously it needs a paint job, but I see some countertops here that look like they're still pretty good. This one, I see here, this looks like a light switch or something. So that tells me there's wiring, right? This house has wiring. If it didn't, not walk away, run away. Another good news story, right? Back to the electric outlets that we see right here. We see a floor. Why do I even point out a floor? Because this could have been just a subfloor with just beams. Again, run away. But here, we've got something that looks decent. Look at these windows. Not the prettiest of windows, but we all know how expensive windows are. So this all looks very good. Something else that I take away as I look at this is it looks like somebody used to live here. Okay, it probably was a while ago, but if someone used to live there, that means it's livable. And a livable house does not take near as much work to bring back to life as one that's been abandoned for decades. Next one. Okay, again, not wonderful, but not awful, right? See a ceiling fan here, again, electricity. So these are the kinds of things that I look for when I'm looking at a house just simply online to decide if it's worth looking at further. You can see here, this is a good news story to me when I look at this bathroom, right? I've seen plenty of houses that don't have any of these three things here. They've all been ripped out. So it's good news when you see this, because this is just a matter of putting in a new tub surround. Same thing with a toilet, easy to replace, or if it already works, even better news, you pull it up, set the new wax ring down, and maybe it needs a new flapper or something like that. And even this vanity, if it's salvageable, you could lay some luan, which is a kind of a very thin plywood right here, and have a nice smooth surface. Again, windows. So I have to tell you, this thing, we're going to keep clicking away. This room here, can't quite tell what it is, does not look lovely. This one looks like it would take all new drywall, right? That's how you would deal with something like this, assuming that this isn't mold here. If this is not going to be easily painted, you just lay a new sheet of drywall all over it, and now you've got a brand new surface. Same thing here with this flooring. Next one. Okay, again, good looking. What is this? Can't quite tell if that's a light or what that is, but doesn't look bad. Oh, look at this. It's got two bathrooms. That's a huge point of interest for folks. Obviously, that toilet has to be replaced, but what I see is promise, right? You've got a toilet, you've got a vanity here. Even these doors are not in bad shape, right? Doors can be painted. Okay, got a good long, looks like a driveway or something like that going up. Side of the house could use a strong pressure wash and probably some new siding in parts. They probably don't have an aerial view, so you need to get a little mini drone or something like that to get a sense. The good news about a roof like this, guys, is that these sorts of roofs tend to have fewer leaks. Flat roofs are just waiting they're essentially a pool, a swimming pool, where lots of ponding can occur. But roofs like this, the water, the snow, they tend to slide off. So of course the exterior doesn't look wonderful, but you know, what is this? I'm guessing this house is probably built on bricks or stone or something like that. So that tells me it's good and solid. This back door here looks fairly solid. Okay, and so we're back to it. We're back here on slide 3. So that was a very extensive walkthrough of what it looks like to look at a house through the eyes of house for the price of a car. And again, $34,000. So for folks out there who are very flexible in where you can live, if you are sick of this rat race, you're like, I don't care where I go, I just want my own place. Dollars to donuts, you could buy this with a credit card if it came to it. And that becomes your home, or you simply buy it as an investment property and then look to rent it out. How do you know what to rent it for? Well, what we would do, we won't do it here, but you can see that this address, 114 Burns Lane, Allegheny Township, zip code 15656. What you would do is you would go on Century 21 or Zillow or some other site, and you would simply look to see for this zip code 15656, what do 3-bedroom, 1-bath houses rent for? So you would just go on Google or some such thing and type in zip code 15656, house for rent. And then that's going to show you everything that's for rent in that area. Always dangerous to do these kinds of things live, but we're going to try it. Zip code 15656, house for rent. And let's see what pops up here on Zillow. Okay, 7, 5. Okay, so those are 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms. They don't have a whole lot. 800, 3-bedroom. 850 for a 3-bedroom. Okay, so it looks like on average we're talking 850 to rent out a house that might cost you, after you fix it up, $50,000. So let's just say that's about 10 grand a year on a $50,000 house, meaning a 20% return, or said another way, you have paid off that house in 5 years. So that is why I see these kinds of house for the price of a car as really an ideal way to be investing in the market. Where else? So where I just showed you, going back here again, is Pennsylvania. But this same example holds true in other locations. Baltimore is usually a little tougher these days, but over the past 90 days or so, 500 houses listed at that house for the price of a car level, and then 2,200 over the past year. So if we just simply click on Zillow to see what's there, I'll set it 35 to 60. I think I'll raise it a bit because, again, Baltimore's gotten to be a bit more competitive. And let's instead go up to, let's go up to 70 maybe, to see if we can see anything somewhat decent. Let's look at this one. What is it going to show? Okay. Coming soon. Townhouse built in 1920. What do I like about a house like this? Remember when I talked about, is it livable? How do you know if something's livable? Because somebody's living in it. Somebody is living in it. So this is already a house that looks super interesting to me. It clearly is in much better shape than the other house that we looked at. Let's keep at it. Again, nothing wrong here, right? This is a perfectly serviceable kitchen with a washer dryer already there. This is exactly what folks who move into a house to rent want. A basement again, and so far it looks dry, or certainly dry enough given all the things that they have stored there. So that's a positive story. There's the ductwork, so that means there's forced air in this house. I guess that would be the furnace over there, hot water heater with the expansion tank, and again, a lot of things on the floor. So that tells me it can't be all bad for this. It must not be a place that gets a lot of groundwater intrusion. And this says 4-bed, 2-bath. So that is a very good size for that row house. Again, good looking, right? All I see are the signs of something wonderful. Nothing at all wrong here. You could almost buy a house like this, paint it, change out these carpets, maybe freshen up the cabinetry with some hardware. I see it even has already a security door. This is something that most people want on a house when they rent it. This looks great. So again, that is Baltimore, and just showing an example of how you've got a house for the price of a car. And we're going to do the same thing. Let's just go back to that one if we can. Let us see what zip code that was. 21. Yes. Okay, I thought someone was saying something there. 21223 is the zip code. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say house for rent in zip code 21223. And let's see what comes up here. Let's head on down here. What is Trulia show? Okay, look at these prices, guys. 2-bedroom, $1,350. 3-bedroom, $1,500. $1,150 for a 2-bedroom, $1,300 for a 3-bedroom. And this was a 4-bedroom, if you remember. So we're talking probably a good $1,500 or thereabouts for a house like this. And you can see here the spread of what the rents look like. Just like we did with the other example, in some ways, this house has a better return on it than the one that we just looked at in Pennsylvania, because this house takes a whole lot less work and costs to fix up, and yet the rent is a good 70% or so higher than what we just saw with the other properties. So I would give this Baltimore house 2 thumbs up. Okay. And then let's just see here. You can see, if folks could go on mute, please, that would be greatly appreciated. You can see this house here in Chicago, pardon me, the neighborhood of Chicago, 100 properties in the last 90 days at price for the car levels, and 700 in the past 12 months. So let's take a peek-see, right? And by now you've got the hang of how it is that I'm doing this. So you yourself, sorry here, just a couple of technical difficulties. Having trouble here with this. Okay, sorry, for some reason this doesn't want to work exactly. Let's just see here. No, it doesn't want to work exactly. But I think you'll have the hang of how that's happening. And then let's take a look here. In most of the US, you can buy a house for $60,000 or less. We just saw a couple of cities where that was possible. But again, some notable exceptions are going to be Alaska, Arizona, California, District of Columbia, Hawaii. Those are all going to be on the not possible. And there's probably a couple of other states too that as an entire state, no. Now, New York State is an interesting one, right? Because folks usually think New York, forget about it. It's not possible to buy a house for the price of a car there. And that's true for New York City, but not New York State. New York State looks a lot like Pennsylvania, where we just looked as our first property. It looks a lot like the Midwest. That's going to be an area. I was showing Chicago, but really the entirety of the Midwest, excellent pickings. Same for a lot of the South. So that's where you would be looking. In some cases, you will also find 2- and 3-family houses and even commercial in that same house for the price of a car. So why do you do this? Why is it that I focus on this? Why do I talk about it and have a real passion for it? Really, because I see it as a great way, as a great component for building wealth. So generational wealth is something that most everyone is looking to do. So usually it starts with you initially, right? So it's like, I need to build wealth just for little old me so that I can make it from one day to the next. And then as you begin to secure that, you think about, okay, my kids, you know, as branch one in the generation. And so real estate is something that has been a tried and true asset to help do that. And it doesn't look like that's going to be changing anytime soon. So that's the reason that I look at real estate so strongly and recommend it to others. Here's an example. You've already seen some real ones, but this is one as just a thought exercise. Imagine that you have a cost of a house that's $40,000. Remember that one we just looked at for $35,000? And by the way, if it's listed at 35, you probably can get it for about 30. Just taking a look at what that house looked like, as well as how low the rents are in that area. But anyway, imagine you have a house, it's 40 grand. You put some money into it to the tune of 20. So now you really have bought yourself a $60,000 house as far as what you paid. Maintenance, now that you've kind of brought the house up to working order, is probably going to be about $1,000 a year. Your mortgage, your insurance, your property tax, all of that's going to add up to about $6,000. And then the rent is going to be probably about $1,300 or so. So about $15,600 a year. So your annual net, when you back out your maintenance, mortgage, insurance, property tax, is going to be about $8,600 or 14% return. You've already seen, again, with the Pennsylvania and the Baltimore houses, real houses available today that have a return even higher than that. And that's just simply the return on investment, the monthly return on investment. The other huge value of a house for the price of a car is the lottery ticket value of the house. And when I say lottery ticket, what I mean is that we've all seen either on television or in the very neighborhood you live in, the neighborhood go from, I don't want to be here, to, wow, isn't this a cool place to live? Brooklyn, New York is probably a big example of houses that were in the tens of thousands and now are more like millions of dollars. So the property itself has a lottery ticket value associated with it. Other reasons of why to do, there's multiple streams of income associated with properties like this. So, oopsie, put you on back there. So everything from short-term rental, like Airbnb, and traveling nurses. So traveling nurses is just a segment of a set of the public who is looking to rent. So if you are looking to buy a property that's near a major hospital or near in a city that has a high density of nurses, for instance, then traveling nurses would probably be interested in renting the home, unlike Airbnb, where you rent for, let's say, a few days or perhaps a couple of weeks at a time. Traveling nurses would look at a 6-month contract. So that tends to be a big benefit, and the amount that they'll pay is usually higher than what you're going to see as just a regular one-year lease. Outside of that, as a stream of income, is just your regular one-year lease, long-term rental. You see rent relief here. So even though COVID is prayers in the rearview mirror, it is still being felt as far as economic money that's being provided to tenants in some states through rent relief. And so that rent relief goes directly to the landlord to pay the tenants rent, essentially. So that's a huge benefit as a stream of income. Flip is, of course, always a possibility. And then the appreciation, especially if you bought the house for the price of a car. There are houses that I have that I bought only a few years ago, meaning 4 or 5 years ago, where I paid $15,000, $18,000, and the house is now worth, put a 1 in front of that, $115,000. $140,000, $160,000, again, primarily because of COVID. And then, as we know, you can always rent out different parts of a property. So storage rental is a big thing. If you live near an urban area where folks don't have a garage, and they wouldn't if they live in an apartment, then certainly you can look to make your property something where you rent off just one piece of it, for instance, the garage. So where to find these? Where to find these mystical, magical houses for the price of a car? You've already seen a couple on your own, and you now have the tools to be able to continue to do this research yourself. So you saw MLS listings. I chose Century 21 and Zillow, but you could use any of these, Realtor, Redfin, Trulia, and then just simply filter. So you'll choose 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, minimum price. You don't want to have it at 0 because you'll end up seeing rentals and other things that sneak in there that aren't really 0 priced. So put in something like 20,000 as the minimum, and then put in a maximum of, let's say, 70,000 or thereabouts, and see what you find. Choose a state. You don't have to choose just a city, so you can do that for an entire state. And then you filter it for single family, multifamily, and townhouse. I would say take out land. You're probably not looking for land necessarily, or if you are, then go in and put in something like minimum size of 1 acre, 2 acre, some such things. So you can really take a good look. Farmland, when you heard me mention 1 acre, 2 acre, that could be an option for buying. Other places you can find them that I didn't show just because there's such a large amount that's available just this way, but clearly there's a huge amount as well available this way. And this is another way that I have built up my portfolio through these real estate owned, these REO listings. So I've bought from Fannie Mae, definitely looked at Freddie Mac. HUD is good. VA, I've taken a good hard look there. Even U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, USDA, U.S. Department of Ag. I bought through that. Local government, land banks, yes. Municipal county sales auctions, have participated in all of these. Same thing with private sector auctions and banks. How do you finance? So if it's going to be your own home sweet home here, then you can finance through the ways that folks who are just buying a single family house to live in finance, which is Fannie Mae, HUD, USDA, U.S. Department of Ag is always the funny one because you usually think of that just for farms. But if the house is in a area that the USDA considers rural, and it doesn't even have to be heavy duty rural. You'd be surprised to see some areas that are more like suburban rural. Maybe there's like a horse farm or something like that, or a 1 or 2 acre farm. But for some reason, USDA sees that whole area as rural. That will then qualify for their mortgage program, which is a whole lot more generous than Fannie Mae's. So want to look at that. Homebuyer programs, those never get old. That is free money waiting to be picked off the tree. So homebuyer programs are often first-time homebuyer, but sometimes that just means first-time homebuyer in that city, not first-time homebuyer ever. So you'll want to look at that. Tenant rental assistance. If you're getting a housing choice voucher, Section 8, some housing choice voucher programs allow for that voucher to pay for your mortgage instead of your rent, which is a good thing because then you won't be a perpetual renter. And then homeowner assistance programs. Private sector is another very good area to be looking for financing, hard money lenders and land bank partners. So how do we get started? Certainly you want to put together a detailed strategy. It's time to move beyond high level. You can't get things done just simply by thinking about them. You've got to put them to paper, create reasonable timelines with milestones, and have somebody there holding you accountable in order to make it so. And so that detailed strategy, timetable, financing plan needs to include location, what the requirements are that you're looking at a property, what your intention is for that property, and how in the world it is you're going to pay for it. And as always, buying for the price of a car is an area that I think is the place to start, certainly, and also an easy way for folks to get involved. So if you're ready, then let's get started. Let's move again from things just being in your mind. Visioning boards. Visioning boards are good, but has this dream of home ownership, of property investment been on your vision board for 5 years, about to be 6 come 2023? It's time to move to action. Same thing if you've been allowing anxiety or just your nerves to to keep you on the sidelines, because after all, it's really big. It's a big deal, and you're not sure what to do. Then it's time to partner up with someone who knows what to do, has done it, and if you're ready to go forth and conquer. Same thing, just having an able guide who can help you. So next step would then be to sign up for one of our interactive hands-on masterclasses. And really, I would say the very next step, we offer something called 30 minutes for $30. And that's your chance to get one-on-one coaching with me. In that 30 minutes, you are going to come away with exactly the action plan that we've been talking about here. So you'll have your very first steps on how to begin implementing what your strategy is, where it is that you want to invest, how it is that you might finance it. And you can just simply go to the website, MySmartCousin.com, in order to be able to sign up for that. There you will also be able to find our free ebook. And so that will be some other information that you have available to you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor and allow folks to be able to ask any questions. Because again, this is, I would say, one, I know it's unusual to have someone like I do really pull back the curtain and go through in detail. This is where you can find houses. Here they are. But it's more than that, right? You join this call for a reason. You're hoping, I would imagine, to start doing this, or if you're already doing this investment journey, to expand it. So certainly feel free to ask questions or share any thoughts. I saw a couple of folks who came on early. I'll ask maybe Ravi. You were one of the folks that dialed in early. Do you have a question?
I wanted to know more about the investor mortgage.
Sure, absolutely. So the investor module and program, what you would do is simply go on MySmartCousin.com. And if you go on there, the very first thing you're going to see is the ability to go on Calendly and sign up with me. And when you go on Calendly, then I'll go ahead and I will send you a Zoom link. And then that way we'll be able to do our $30 for 30 minutes through Zoom. And certainly we can record it. That way it'll be something that you can always look back to and work from. So it's a pretty simple process. We try to keep it easy.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll just go to my smart cousin and I'll go for $30.
Okay, good. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Anybody else have anything? Beatrice, do you want to take a shot at a question? Okay, folks are going to be on the shy side here. And I understand, I know no one knows no one here, as it were, but again, it's always great information. All right. Well, if no one has anything else, then we're going to go on ahead and sign off. Give me a thumbs up if you thought this was useful, if you thought it was helpful. We do this every month, and each time I say something a little different. Thanks very much for that. In terms of trying to, thanks so much, Nate. In terms of, appreciate that, Stephen. I say something a little different each time because you know, in the month that will pass, there'll be something new that I learned, something new that I'll want to share with you all. So perhaps when we do this next month, we'll talk about multifamily. I know that's usually something folks want to do. I have bought some houses for the price of a car that are multifamily. I bought a 3-family house for, I think it was about $18,500 a few years ago in Jersey. I bought another house in Jersey, a 2-family, for $35,500. I bought a 4-family that has a bar. Of course, the bar hasn't been in operation for years and years. And I got that in Pennsylvania for, I think that was about $27,000. So we can certainly talk about multifamily if that's something that folks are interested in. Until next time. This is My Smart Cousin. Have an awesome weekend. Thank you so much, Shane. Really appreciate it. And yes, I'm always happy to be transparent and share the information. If I don't say it out loud, how is anybody gonna possibly know? All righty, guys. Thanks much. Thank you, Ravi.